just with some injury updates, and then we'll get into Q&A.
This
So you can
meeting
go
is
ahead
being
and raise your
recorded.
hands.
You got me?
Yep.
Cool. What's up, everyone? Happy spring training. Good to see everyone via Zoom. A couple of injury updates off the top before we get rolling. I got three ones for you. Starting with Bowden Francis. He's going to undergo UCL reconstruction surgery, and he's going to miss this entire season. He's going to have that tomorrow with Dr. Meister. Anthony Santander. He's going to undergo left labral surgery tomorrow with Dr. Meister and be out for approximately 5 or 6 months. And Shane Bieber will kind of have his ramp up be a little bit delayed, dealing with some right forearm fatigue. He's currently feeling good. We're going to be extra cautious with him. He's playing catch. But he won't be ready to start the season. But we feel like he's going to be a significant contributor to us this year. Just being extra cautious with him.
Okay, go ahead and raise your hands, and we'll start with the first question. Go ahead, Keeks.
Hey, John, I'll start with Santander, I guess, off the top. Did anything worsen with him, or why is this happening now at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he was feeling good after the season. He was, kind of progressing normally and ramping up. He was resting, rehabbing, November, December. Kind of had a setback when he started ramping up with his hitting earlier in January. And, came over to the complex, got checked out, and, kind of did everything we could to avoid this. But I think at this point, after what we dealt with last year and talking with Tony, that was the best possible way to get him back to 100%. So it was unfortunate of the timing, obviously, after the season he had to, for sure. But, just a setback after he started hitting and ramping up in January.
And with Shane, with him being a bit slower, like what does a realistic good start to the season look like for you at this point?
We'll see. He's here. He's feeling good. He's playing catch. He's playing catch out to 90 feet. We'll see. I think we're kind of being cautious by saying not at the beginning of the year and just kind of work through it with Shane, and kind of do week to week with him and see how he's going. So, again, nothing, no procedures, no anything in the off season. It's just a high level pitcher coming off Tommy John and pitching longer than he probably expected, and in some really high stress innings and outings and things like that, and just taking it really, really, a cautious approach with him.
All right. Thanks, John. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. See you, Keeks.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Adam. And apologies to everyone for my kid's cat, who I have no control over in the picture here. As far as the way the lineup will shake out now without Tony, does this just open a door for Nathan Lucas, who might otherwise have been on the bench, or are there any other considerations?
I think right now, yeah, we dealt with this last year too, and I think it kind of opens the door for a lot of guys. Whether it's Nate, Schneider, Joey, Class A, how we're very lucky to be pretty versatile with guys that can kind of play infield and outfield, and showed that we can be pretty resilient when we do have injuries. So Nate was going to have a big role regardless, I think. And if that pushes him into a little bit more regular role right now, that may be the case. But I think it kind of opens the door for other players that we have on the roster that we plan on being on the team to play a little bit more outfield too.
And when we were introduced to Okamoto, nobody would say what the plan was for him, whether it's to be the everyday third baseman, or he sounded like he wants to bounce around a little bit. After having him for a couple of months now and talking to him, do you have a specific plan for him?
Yeah. Our plan for him is to be very regular at third base. And I think the more third base that he can play for us, the better equipped we are to be pretty agile with everyone else. So I think third base, yeah, that's where, I know he's slated right now for the WBC. That's where Japan's planning on playing him. We're going to do everything we can to try to keep him in the infield, third base primarily, and then if Vlad needs a DH day, you can kick him over to first.
Okay, thanks.
All right, go ahead, Shy.
Hey, Schneid's.
Hey, Shy.
Just as you're thinking about the rotation and potential absence or at least delayed start for Shane Bieber the regular season, what does that mean for how the other rotation pieces fit?
I think kind of, how we had planned, really. I think you have Cease, you got Gauze, you got Ponce, you got Trey. Lauer, obviously, we're going to stretch out as a starter. Jose, obviously, we're going to stretch out as a starter. He's had a pretty productive offseason. Watched him throw today and was very encouraged. And then hopefully Shane isn't that far behind. I think that's where we're kind of in a unique spot to where some of our depth is actually on our 26-man roster. So we're going to try to do the best we can to build those guys for sure up as starters, and then some of our guys in the minor leagues for a little bit more length.
And Ross had mentioned back at the GM meetings in December that you're going week to week with Shane at that point. Can you elaborate a little bit on when that fatigue started showing up? Was it right after the postseason? Was there any MRI work done then and there? How did his progression come out of the playoffs begin?
Yeah, I think at that time, in talking with Beebs and all of our medical people, that was the expectation, was that he was kind of on track for opening day. And then he had an MRI in the off season that showed nothing wrong, just kind of forearm fatigue, which I think kind of reassured him a little bit coming off the surgery. So in talking to him and talking with our medical team, just decided that the best possible outcome would be to slow play it a little bit after going through what he went through in the postseason and the World Series. So within that week to week, yeah, I think you have the ability to adapt a little bit, and that's kind of where we landed with it.
All right. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, Schneider, how's it going?
What's up, Ben? Good. How you doing?
Good. So just on Santander and his timing. So you said 5 to 6 months. I think I heard that right. So
Yeah.
Is there hope that he would come back this season later?
Yeah, that's definitely the hope. And I think, in talking with him, recently, that's his plan. I think this has been a couple weeks and talking to him, and then this was a possibility. And that's the plan, kind of planning for that now. If surgery was the outcome, that he would do everything he could to kind of go into that surgery as healthy as he could to hope speed that recovery up. But yeah, we're looking at, whatever it may be. Again, it's always tricky with surgeries. We dealt with it with a Barsh last year or last off season, but the hope is for him to definitely be back as soon as he can to help us kind of down the stretch in the second half.
And then George, at the end of last year, he really wasn't playing too much outfield. Obviously, he was in a great rhythm offensively, anyways. But does this do you plan for him to play much outfield as things get going this year?
Some, yeah. Georgie, he's obviously getting older. We joked with him about him loving the DH spot. I think Georgie will play some outfield. I think the DH role fits him really well. He's comfortable there with where he is in his career and things like that. But he's gonna play some to kind of help us offset that. And really, that was the plan even before we figured out that Tony was going to have the surgery. So nothing really changes from George. He was grinding a lot. You guys saw him in the playoffs and the side, the knee. He was dealing with some really some wrist discomfort, right wrist discomfort as the season went on, which made it a little bit difficult to throw as well. But I think the offseason did him well, and he'll be out there. It's not going to be every day, but he's going to be out there whenever we need him.
Nice. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Arden.
Hey, Schneider, what's up?
What's up, Arden? How you doing?
Good, you?
Good.
You mentioned Jose Berrios being stretched out as a starter, and that to me was like almost something that I just sort of assumed. So
Yeah.
does that mean a bullpen role is on the table for him? Or
No, yeah, that's kind of me just being monotonous there. No, I mean, Hosey's a starter. I think when we did move him to the pen last year, that was totally under circumstances with where we were at that time and with Trey coming up. So, yeah, we view him as a starter. He will be a starter. That's how we're planning to use him. That's how he prepared for in the offseason. Yeah, right now, Hosey, he's he's a starting pitcher for us for sure.
and it was just a little bit unclear how things played out during the World Series last year with him and him being away from the team. And obviously there was a lot going on at the time. Just from your perspective, what kind of went into that decision of him stepping away? How did you feel about it at the time? What was the communication like between you guys and throughout the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'll let Hosey speak on it a little bit when you guys get down here and things like that. But I think it was probably heat of the moment stuff. And, he was obviously not pitching for us. He was on the IL. So it was kind of circumstances that we didn't really deal with it at the time because we're trying to win the World Series. But I think that's been handled. I think Hosey, realizes that it probably could have been handled a little bit differently on everyone's end, really. You know what I mean? Looking back, I wish that we did a little bit, things a little bit differently, and I'm sure he does as well. But he's, the normal Jose that's coming in ready. He's had conversations with guys that he's need to have conversations with, and we want to kind of just put that behind us.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Nelson.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, good. John, my question is about Jimenez. I think it's imminent that he potentially is going to play shortstop this season, and I was wondering if with the Venezuelan team, him being called up for the World Baseball Classic, if there's a plan, is there any restriction? Is there a preference of him playing shortstop versus second base?
Yeah, the plan for him is to play short for us. He knows that. We're getting ready for that. I've been in touch with Omar Lopez, and he's going to play short for Venezuela. I believe it's him and Tovar at short, and Glaber and Arise at second, according to him. And however he's going to be used for that team to try to win. My understanding is it's going to be at shortstop, and he's going to get all of his work in at shortstop.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, and hello again, Schneids. I was going to ask that too, but instead, John Schneider just won the Super Bowl 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Have you been getting any like Super Bowl, World Series stuff that way?
Not really. My friends here in the neighborhood that I was watching the game with, they were like, "Oh," I was like, "No, I'm still the baseball guy. I'm not the football guy." But hopefully, I can follow in his footsteps. But I got a couple weird looks from my neighbor friends, but thankfully, haven't gotten any weird text or calls like I was getting after the World Series.
You didn't get any of his texts or calls either.
No, no.
All right, and baseball wise, I guess just to, even though we're assuming this stuff, Ernie is your everyday second baseman, I'm guessing. And do you have a plan in your head, at least as far as who's going to set up Hoffman, assuming he's still your closer?
Yeah, Ernie, he's going to get kind of the lion's share work at second. We know that he can obviously play basically anywhere. He's going to be kind of a super utility role for Team USA and hopefully get as much work in a second as he can. He's going to get all of his reps there before he does leave. And with Ern, it's comforting knowing that he's pretty well equipped with getting work in everywhere, and you feel good about that. So he'll be primarily at second. And as far as the bullpen, I think anyone can really close. Obviously, I feel very comfortable with Jeff doing it, and if he gets the bulk of it, great. I think that Louis Varland is going to play a big role late in games. I think Tyler Rogers is going to play a role late in games. And I feel like so many teams that we play are so left-handed heavy. You look at Flu, you look at Little, to kind of share some of that too. So it'll depend on how we, are in the lineup. And But right now, I haven't discussed anything with Jeff or with the bullpen, but feel 100% confident if he's closing most games. But really like kind of the back end there, especially with Tyler, because he can do a lot of things.
And just, do you have a healthy Yimmy to start the season?
He's progressed. Yeah, he's throwing. He's feeling better. We'll kind of see how his game ramp up looks. The hope is that he'll be ready for opening day. If he's not, that's we'll be okay with that too, based off of what he's coming off of. But he's been feeling good. He's been throwing for numerous weeks now. We're going to be careful with him, obviously, with given his age and his track record and coming off of the injury and things like that. But it would be great if he was ready. And I think if he's not, we have a lot of other viable options until he is.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Junko.
Hi, John.
Hey.
Hi. My question is regarding to Okamoto. You just mentioned about he's going to be mainly the third base. How about in the lineup? How do you see him using the lineup without Bichette and Santander, especially in the dream spring training? Do you want him to move around in the lineup?
I've been looking at it. I think I don't want to get too caught up in matchups. I want to just kind of get the feel of him, and see where he's comfortable. He's obviously got a ton of potential to hit right in the middle of the order. With the home runs, he hits the ball extremely hard. I do like to have some balance up and down the lineup in terms of right, left, things like that, or trying to find the right way to do it every night or every series. But I think, envisioning where he would go would be somewhere in the middle, and it depends on how guys are swinging it. It depends on who we're facing. But, we signed him for the way he can hit and for the run production and the home run potential. So I think he's going to fit in somewhere in the middle. If it's 4, 5, 6, something like that, I think it could be anywhere really.
And he's going to head into the WBC and limited spring training. How many at-bat are you going to give to him before he joined to the World Baseball Classic?
Hopefully as many as we can, and without overdoing it and without kind of running him into the ground before he leaves. But I know that he's done this before in 2023. We've spoken to him in the offseason, and he's got a pretty good idea of how he wants to go about it and how many at-bats he needs. So, I mean, for us with the new player coming in, obviously, I don't want to say there's some unknowns, but you want to just get a good feel of what he's comfortable with and how he's adjusting to major league pitching. So I think right now the best answer is as many as we can get him without disrupting his normal ramp up defensively and on his feet and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, you bet.
We've got time for one more here from Arden.
Hey, you mentioned Okamoto playing a lot of third base, which presumably that pushes Addison Barger to right field more often. And then would
Yeah.
you kind of foresee Nathan Lucas playing more left field in this configuration? How do you plan to juggle all this?
Yeah, I think with that, you can probably, right now the way we're lining it up, you have Barge and Davis in more of an outfield role without losing the versatility for a given day or a given couple days or in-game switches and having those guys move around a little bit. So I think that's kind of the plan with Schneid more in left and Lukey more in left and Barge in right. And then, depending on who you're facing, you have Miles that can be out there. You feel fine with Lukey in right. You feel fine with Lukey in center, even really. That's where I think George in the outfield comes into play a little bit as well. But I think you can, as we stand right now, without anything changing, I think those two guys would be in the outfield much more.
Does George then play some more left when he is in the outfield this
I
year?
think, I think so. Just kind of looking at who else we have, whether it's Barge or Nate or even Miles, I think you probably feel better about them in right and Georgie in left. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll just jump on to the other link for Russ.
being recorded.
Go ahead, Keegan.
Hey, Ross, thank you for doing this with us today. We just talked to Schneider there, and he was telling us about Anthony Santander. How do you see that playing out in terms of how you replace what you projected from Anthony, and who are you expecting more from now in his absence?
Yeah, thanks, Keegs. Yeah, good to be here with everyone down in sunny Florida. Great day. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously disappointing news, but we have built the organization and team and planned for setbacks and planned for disappointment to overcome to make sure that we're in a good position and feel that we can do so. As far as who is specifically going to replace that, similar to last year, different guys will have to step up when Varsh was down, when Hemi was down, when Tony was down for the bulk of the season. We had different guys step up, and that versatility that we have and hopefully the depth that we have, we'll be able to do that again.
And then your rotation, Ross, with Bieber ramping up a bit slower, what does an ideal start look like for you, and what kind of precautions need to happen for him in this ramp?
An ideal start for Justin?
For Shane Bieber.
Yeah. I mean, the ideal start is that he's in a very strong and healthy position. So that's we're going to make sure that we're putting him in the best possible position to do that.
All right. Thank you, Ross.
All right, Keeks.
Go ahead, Arden.
Hey, Ross, how's it going?
Hey, Arden.
Trey Savage obviously took on quite a bit of workload last year, just compared to what he was doing in college. Will his usage, will his innings kind of be managed at all early this season just to account for sort of that year-to-year increase?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this with a lot of different pitchers over the past, and every individual is different. Every case is different. We'll ensure that we're putting them in the safest possible position while trying to win as many games as possible. So it's the kind of thing that you do have to think about ahead of time if there are ways to put them in the best positions for the end of the season to be there for us in October and hopefully November. But we feel like the work is done on that front, and it is going to be manageable.
And with Kazuma Okamoto, what have you kind of learned so far in your brief time with him just about what he'll need to sort of get assimilated to a new organization, a new league, having the World Baseball Classic in the midst of this and just making that transition to MLB?
Yeah, fortunately, he's coming from an incredible organization that has had a lot of exposure to expectations, to big time baseball, and not just the organization he's coming from, but in addition to that, in the WBC. So feel like he's as prepared as any international player possibly could be to come into this environment. We've had success with it in the past, and looking forward to his transition.
All right, thanks, Ross.
All right, Arden.
Go ahead, Shai.
Hey, Ross.
Hey, Shai.
With understanding that you guys are always looking for ways to add to the team and find improvements, how has the news about Santander and his surgery impacted the way you're thinking about your current outfield mix? Does it change maybe the way that you're looking at perhaps adding externally to the outfield mix?
Not significantly. We're always thinking about improving. We're always thinking about getting better. We were at a position where acquisitions probably would have meant some level of subtraction, meaning we would have had to look to trade someone had we acquired another significant position player. And so we feel like we're prepared to handle setbacks, and albeit one, we feel like we're in a strong enough position to handle it, and all the things that I said earlier to Keeks.
Okay. And just from a timeline perspective, when Shane Bieber first reported the forearm fatigue, what was your sense of how that needed to be handled then, and how has that evolved over the course of the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, every situation is unique with how a progression happens. And in Shane's case, as he was ramping back up and starting to build up again, we wanted to make sure that he wasn't making progress and was feeling the same, that we gave him the chance to do that. So we're going to make sure that he's in a very, very healthy, strong position to help us win as many games as possible.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Shai.
Go ahead, John.
Hi, Ross. I wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously not to bring up bad memories, but you guys came so close last year to winning it all. Now you've had a few months to get away from it, at least the players have. How do you see them coming back? Do you worry there's a little bit of a hangover effect, or do you feel, that's all behind them now, and if anything, they're more motivated to get back and try to win this year?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I do think that they're in a more motivated position. So it's such an interesting thing. It's why we do it. It's why we love sport, to be, to feel pressure, to feel expectations, to, you certainly don't do it to experience letdown, but we understand that's a part of it, and how you respond to it's the most important thing.
Thank you.
No problem.
Go ahead, Ben.
Hey, Ross.
Hey, Ben.
Wondering, after the news that Bowden Francis is going to require surgery, and then Bieber, him having a slower start to the season, are you guys looking for pitching at all as spring training begins here?
Well, we're always trying to improve our roster. If there's ways to do it, we'll always consider it. And, we're not in a situation where we just wait for it to come to us. There's not a time where we're not considering thinking about additions via free agency or trade.
As for Santander, Schneid's mentioned that he was ramping up a little in January, and that was when some of this occurred. Like, as the offseason progressed, when did you guys get a sense that, hey, this might actually be something pretty significant?
I mean, not long ago, obviously. So as the intensity level got higher, that's when he felt the recurrence of the feeling. Obviously, he felt strong at the end of the season and looked very good in the playoffs for us in the limited time that he did play. He felt good at the end of the season, and just as he began to ramp up again at that very high level of intensity, he felt something. So at that juncture, you have two choices. You can continue with conservative efforts, or you have a procedure. And Anthony's chosen the procedure route, and we support him.
Thanks.
All right, Ben.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Adam. Ross, I guess we're all sort of trying to pin you down on a timetable for Bieber that either you don't want to give us because it's fluid or something else. But do you have an expectation? Like Schneid said, he wasn't going to be ready to start the season, but do you have an expectation as to when you think we might see him in a big league game?
Well, I mean, we share his expectation, which is to pitch a lot and to pitch in have a significant impact on our entire season. The reason that we're not specific with those timelines is because of the additional pressure that we feel is unneeded. We want it to, make the most sense for him and make the most sense for us to win as many games as possible.
Okay. Okay. And as far as contributions from people we might not be talking about, from people we might not be thinking about, your young guys who you're particularly excited to get a chance to see over the next month and a half, is there anyone or two or three specific players that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a long list. A lot of guys come to mind. Last year we talked about Alan Roden being really exciting. This year, RJ Schreck is someone that, I'm really excited for, just to see him embrace opportunity. Joey Loperfido, who you already know very well. The pitching, you guys know the names and the group that have been there, and Obviously Ricky Tiedemann, everyone's aware of, and he looks extremely strong. So feel good about the group that's coming in, that's going to be in AAA and even AA. There's been some really good stories in our offseason, and there's been some good additions to the organization over the last couple of years that we feel can make an impact soon.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Mike.
Go ahead, Gabe.
Hey, how you doing, Ross?
Good.
Even before losing Anthony, how important was it to sort of your internal calculus that guys like Addison and Ernie sort of continued off of what they built at the end of last year and kind of contribute that over 162 games this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put an adjective before that on just how important, but it is. I think if we're not getting better as an organization at every capacity, that that not just the players but every staff member, then we're not going to win the World Series. So each one of us has to be thinking that way, and I know that those two are. Very excited about the seasons they've had. Where they are in their careers is really remarkable to think about what's ahead for them. The names that you mentioned, and there's going to be another story for us this year. I feel confident of that. And, it's not limited to the names that you mentioned from some of the pitching stories that we had. And obviously Trey, that gets talked about a lot, but, Mason and Fish, that were just absolutely very, just significant contributors for us. We're going to continue to have those stories, and looking forward to being a part of them.
Go ahead, Daisuke.
Hi, Ross. Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
Yes. My understanding is Okamoto won't be at the camp tomorrow. Then, what's the plan? When do you think he's going to arrive?
Yeah, we're just waiting on the visa to be approved, and confident that we'll see him sometime this weekend. It is a long trip, obviously, but I think sometime this weekend is what we're feeling is the most realistic at this point.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Go back to Shai.
Hey, Ross, you mentioned Ricky Tiedemann. You believe you said he was looking strong. Just for him, where is he in the recovery from Tommy John? Is he full go as he enters camp? And how are you envisioning his usage given the limited workload in recent years?
Yeah, he's as full go as you can be as you're recovering. But if he doesn't feel like he's making progress in each outing, we may decide to hit pause with him again. As far as workload this year, we're going to take that really a month at a time, and just make sure that he's progressing and developing and able to impact us from a bulk standpoint. So it could end up shortening, but initially he will be stretched out so that he could have some impact either way.
You mentioned bulk standpoint, impact either way. Is there a pathway to regular starting for him given the lack of workload in recent years?
It would obviously be very difficult for him to do that and impact us late in the season. So that's why we want to stay open and a little bit more nimble to start the year.
Okay, and just with Bowden, when was there a second injury, or was that just not a recovery from the first one that led to the decision for him to have the UCL tomorrow?
No, this was a separate injury, and he was feeling good, feeling strong, and felt it on one specific pitch. So it was an acute injury that happened recently.
Was that in the ramp up for this season?
Yes.
Okay, so just factoring in what you just said about Ricky, no Bowden, how is that impacting with Shane? How is that impacting the larger view of your starting pitching depth right now and the way that you're entering the season situated there?
Yeah, we feel good about it. That's, one of the reasons that we've acquired Cody, and, really fortunate to have Eric Lauer in the position that he's in here. Obviously we've acquired Dylan Cease and have two incredibly stable starting pitchers coming back in Goss and Jose. So very confident that we're going to see Shane contributing in a significant portion of our season, and feel like our starting point is still in a very solid position.
All right. Thanks again.
All right, Shai.
Back to Mike.
Thanks. Just with Bowden, do you know whether it's going to be Tommy John or the brace, or is that one of those they'll find out when they get in there?
Sorry, can you say that again? It broke up. It might be my connection. Can you just say it one more time?
Sure. With Bowden, do you know if it's going to be Tommy John or the brace, or is it something they'll find out when they get in?
It's B. They'll that's more in discovery that they'll determine that.
Okay. We were talking to Schneider about the bullpen, and he said that he feels like he's got a lot of guys who can close. He's confident in Jeff Hoffman if he's closing the majority of games, but there are a lot of guys back there. How do you see the back end of the bullpen shaping up? Like, not the ninth inning, but even from the seventh on.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole industry has evolved a little bit that way. It's it obviously is very nice if you have guys that fall into a sixth inning or seventh inning role and are strictly an eighth inning guy, but we're we put ourselves in the best possible position to have these guys get the most outs for an entire season, and sometimes that means matching them up against hitters that are better suited for their arsenals. And that doesn't mean they couldn't get the guys in the eighth inning out, but they might be better deployed in the sixth. But having Yimmy, Tyler, Brendan, Flew, guys that you've seen Fish that I've already mentioned, Tommy Nance. We'll see how our starting rotation shakes out. There could be a starter that's in our pen as well. So, or someone who's started before, but feel like we're in a strong position.
And just with Leo Jimenez being out of options, what are you looking to see from him in camp?
Yeah, I mean, this it's a good opportunity for him. That's we talk about it all the time with players where sometimes they feel as though that the rules are quote unquote working against them, and in many ways sometimes they feel as though the benefit of the way that the rules are written, and now it's going to be an incredible opportunity for him, and we have one for him to prove himself and demonstrate that he can contribute. We believe in him. Excited about his athleticism being on our roster.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Mike.
And our last one here from Shai.
Hey, Russ, just a technical question on the procedure that Tony's having. Is it a repair to the labrum, or is it something else? Just how do we describe the procedure that he is having?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the technical term. I can get that to you, Shai, of exactly what his procedure, but it is they're repairing the labrum.
All right. That'd be great if possible. Thanks.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time, and we'll see those of you in Florida tomorrow.